Where were you all last Sunday? I came here. No one was here. How many of you were able to make it to Dambulla? Someone saying ting ting as well. Okay, good. And to Andigama? They're both rare opportunities. It's not every day you get to take part in something like that. It's extraordinary, really. Because many causes have to align. And it's not just enough for us to be preaching the Dhamma. There have to be people like you who've understood the Dhamma and who have embarked on this journey. Because the Dhamma is a medicine. The disease is attachment. So when the medicine of Dhamma begins to heal your mind, you begin to detach. Detach from the sense of self and the value you give to oneself, to yourself, and this concept or the idea that what is good is only what is yours. You begin to renounce. In a conventional sense, you might understand the word renunciation as something that you will recall Prince Siddhartha did when he left his worldly life behind. He left his wife, he left his only child, he left his father, he left his royal lifestyle, and he left behind what many people would call a very successful life, only befitting a prince. He was bound to become a great king, in fact an emperor, not just any old king. So that is renunciation. It is what we learnt as renunciation when we studied Buddhism at school. But that is a material renunciation. It's physical in nature. To the extent that you could even say that the prince hadn't renunciated anything at all. That was not nekkhamma. He was still very much attached to those things. That is why it was painful to leave behind his wife and child. It was no easy task. You can imagine how much he must have considered whether he was making the right decision. Whether it was right for him to leave behind an infant child who hadn't even got to know who his father was. I mean, we're talking about a man who loves the entire world. That is what he had practiced over the last few, not even the last few, but the last few eons. It is what he'd been practicing, to show compassion and love to all sentient beings. Dare we think that he had no love for his own flesh and blood? That would not be realistic to even consider that. And a wife who had devoted herself entirely. Her entire life was a life of devotion to her husband. So to leave the two of them behind could not have been an easy task. Therefore, even when he departed the palace and he departed his dear friends, even Channa, the minister, who was his very close friend, and his people, who must have loved him a lot. There were many strings that pulled him back in his mind. But it was sheer willpower, courage, determination, and a clear sense of purpose that he must go and discover a solution to a problem that no one had yet discovered. That was the only thing that drove him out of the palace. In some ways you can say he hadn't renunciated anything, or rather he hadn't renounced anything. because the mind was very much still attached to all those things he was leaving behind. Otherwise, he would have been an arahant by then. He'd not discovered panacea. He'd not discovered the solution yet at that time. And then the next few years was a quest of labor, a quest of love, a quest of compassion, not just for him and his family, but for the entire universe. He was to fulfill his paramitas. That is why the last 6 years prior to Buddhahood was spent again fulfilling his paramitas. He was due to undergo and endure such austerity. It was part of his perfections. Perhaps it was willpower, perhaps it was courage, perhaps it was determination. Perhaps he was paying off some debt, some sansaric debt that he'd owed. Perhaps he was paying the consequences of a sin that he'd committed at some point in the life of a bodhisattva. But he had to become pure. He had to consecrate himself. He had to become the emblem of purity. All this for all of us. That was no easy task. And he had to ultimately discover how to renounce. Actually, what he did was renounce to discover how to renounce. That's what he did. So the physical renunciation was merely a physical renunciation, because it still hurt him. There were many things that pulled him back. I can only imagine, even after he'd left home and spent time in solitude, he must have surely thought about his life, his wife and his child, whether they were okay, whether they were missing him, whether they still needed him. At least once or twice, I imagine he must have thought, did I make the right choice? Will I actually discover what I've set myself forth to discover? Because no one would condone his behavior, what he'd done. There was not a single soul that said, that is what you're supposed to do, except for the fortune tellers. Maybe he knew it, maybe he didn't. When Asita the ascetic prophesied with certainty that this young prince would one day go on to become the greatest king of all, perhaps I doubt that the king would have revealed that to the prince at all, because that is not what he wanted of him. He wanted him to take on the kingdom. So this is a story that many of you are more or less familiar with. But the point being, the prince hadn't even begun to renounce. He didn't know how to. Not until he went and discovered the Dhamma, the medicine that heals all mental wounds. And once he did, his Buddhahood was the moment that he, for the very first time in samsara, experienced renunciation. But what's happening with you is you never left behind your worldly lives. All we ask you to do is come here on a Sunday. You didn't have to leave behind your wife or your wife's wife, your husbands, your children, your homes, the comforts of your material lives. You didn't have to leave any of that behind. This is the difference between a bodhisattva who is about to become a Buddha and a bodhisattva who is destined to become an arahant. It is in this way that the two of us, not you and me, but him and us, we are different. We don't have to let go of anything to then go and discover how to let go of things. Whereas with a bodhisattva who wishes to become a Buddha, a supreme Buddha, he has to first renounce painfully to then go and discover how to renounce. So he has to do what is painful first. So he has no painkillers. It's like he has to get the surgery done, but without the painkillers. And then he has to discover how it can be done to others, but with painkillers. This is a great gift that we received from the Buddha. I want you to consider how privileged we are, that we don't have to endure the same hardship that he did. When have I ever asked you to leave behind your friends, your children, your parents, your loved ones, your husbands or wives, or your worldly lives? Once in a while I ask you to come and join us at the monastery, but that's also only when you're ready. But with the prince, there was no way to be ready or to become ready. There was no way to get ready. When you run a race, there's usually they let you get ready. They say, on your mark, get set, go. With Prince Siddhartha, it was just go. But he figured that for people like you and I, that was not going to be so easy to just go. Therefore, what he did was he discovered how to help us get ready for that. In fact, thanks to the Dhamma, thanks to his discovery, now we are so privileged. Please understand the depth of what I'm trying to share with you here. We are so privileged that we don't have to let go of anything we are not ready to. He didn't have that luxury. Do you understand why I'm saying this? Do you resonate with the sentiment that I'm sharing with you? He didn't have that luxury. Because there was no teaching. There was no teaching that led to detachment. There was no teaching out there. He'd visited many teachers at the time. He'd consulted with his ministers, he'd consulted with the most educated, with the most erudite, with the sages of the time. But none of them had a solution. When he went out on the chariot and asked the minister, his charioteer, these people who fall sick, they age and they die. Surely someone's discovered a solution to this problem. What is it? And on each occasion, he was only disappointed with the answer. The response to each of those questions was, the solution to that? That was the answer. Shana would have asked him, are you serious? You're asking about a solution to old age? Are you kidding me? That's what Shana would have asked in today's language. Old age has no solution. It's just what happens. We just accept it, that's all, and we just move on. What are you like? With all due respect, Prince. He would have added probably. Are you crazy asking me for a solution to old age? Think about before you ever came across the Buddha's teaching. It was just a fact of life, was it not? Did you ever think that old age required a solution? Did you ever think that there was actually a proper, solid, concrete solution to old age, to aging? Did you think that there was a solution to that? It was just a fact of life. It's just what happens after you're born. That's it. You just accept it and you just get over it. When you're very young, you don't realize that it's something that happens. You just see that there are people of different heights. And some people like to wear their hair grey. Yeah, when you're young, that's what you think. Those people, they like to wear their hair grey. These people, they like to wear their hair black. You don't realize that, no, it's just black hair now gone grey. It takes a while for you to come to terms with that. Or rather, at least to discover that that is what aging is. Some people like to stand upright, others like to stand like a sea. You just think, as a child, you think, oh, that's just their personal preference. I don't know why, but some people like to walk like that, perhaps. Some walk on 2 legs, others walk on 3. Walking stick. But I'm sure you must have had a point in life where you discovered that, okay, so we age. So it's not just someone's preference to walk like that. But, you probably can't even remember the day you discovered that aging is something that happens. It seems like it's just a normal way of life now. But if you go back, there was a time in our very young lives that this was a very new idea. It was very foreign to us. I think I shared with you when I first found out that my parents were going to age and die one day. I was not prepared to hear that. It was a shocker. So until then, I thought some people like to have a full set of teeth and others like to show off some gaps between their teeth. I just thought maybe that was just a fashion. Just style. They liked it. Preferences. Do you remember the first funeral you ever went to? Not you went to, but you were taken to? And there was a man or a woman sleeping while everyone else was chatting and crying and talking between themselves. There was one guy who was asleep. I mean, as a child, it would be really normal for you to walk up to them and go, "Hello, excuse me, Uncle Sam, I'm here." I mean, that would be perfectly acceptable, wouldn't it, for a young child to walk up to the corpse and try and wake them up? You would assume that he's asleep the first time. But your parents probably would have had a conversation before they took you to the first funeral that you were to witness. I vaguely remember the first time they said, "We are going to a funeral." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Someone's died." And what's that? It's where they're no more. Then why are we going? Because apparently we were going to see them, but they're no more. If they're no more, why are we going there? Where are they? I'm like that, don't you? Too inquisitive for my own good. Guru Handra often reminds me of that, even to this day. He calls me the lawyer. When there's a problem and we have to, and every aspect of it has to be considered, he says, "Call Nayak Handra." Now here's the problem. Go consider every aspect of it. Come back and let me know what we're supposed to do. What you think we're supposed to do. So, anyway, that's that. So this would be a question that would very reasonably asked by an inquisitive mind. If they are no more, why are we going to see? Why are we going there? Let's go wherever they are. No, he's dead. What do you mean dead? Dead. He's as dead can be. Dead. Off. He's switched off. Can't be turning back on again. No, not anymore. Sorry, I'm not trying to be flippant about death. I don't know if anyone's had something recent. I hope it doesn't cause you any emotional harm. But I'm just saying this is okay. So if they're dead, then why are we going there? So you would have gone, seen the dead body for the first time, looking very emotionless. That's how they have to prepare the body. Pretty emotionless, not frowning, not smiling, not laughing, not too cheerful, because that would give the wrong message, but not too grumpy. Then that would be difficult to read the eulogy, and people would not like. I often wondered, I don't know whether people take selfies with corpses these days. Do they? They do they? What part do they get to the photo? The face? Face? Interesting. That's what I'll say on the matter. Interesting. It's very interesting. So that's not seen as disrespectful or anything. It's fine. Okay. So if, in case you didn't know, it's fine to take selfies at the funeral with the dead body. Apparently it's okay. I don't know. That's not me. I'm just saying. Someone's just reported that it's okay and it's done. It's a done thing. So I wonder what they do with those selfies. Do they post them on Facebook or they do? They okay. Because you have to show that you've attended. I mean, there's only one person who always shows up at the funeral. The dead man. So everyone else has to, of course, provide evidence to the world that they were there when it happened. So going back to Prince Siddhartha, that was a detour. So going back to Prince Siddhartha, he asked these questions, well, not these questions, but he was very curious about death, and he figured that death was painful. That much he knew. He knew that old age and aging was painful and illness was painful, because he saw that. There were people carrying this dead body and they were crying. In fact, it was quite ironical that the dead man wasn't crying at all, but there were others who were carrying him and they were the ones who were crying. And I mean, even if I were there, I would have had a very similar question. Why, if he's dead, he's the one who should be crying. Why are the others crying? I mean, we only heard a very concise summary of the conversation between the prince and Channa. I think it would have been quite a long, drawn-out conversation all the way there and the way back to the palace. I think they would have had a very hearty conversation. Like, why were they crying? If this one's died, why were they crying? Well, that's what people do. They cry, they weep, they grieve when a loved one passes away. So, but why? It's not them who's dead. Why? Well, that's the fact of life. So surely someone's trying to do something about it, aren't they? I suppose the prince would have asked. No. Are you crazy? No one's trying to do something about that, because that's just the way life is. We just accept. We cry, we grieve, we weep, and then after a while we just forget them. And just get on with our lives and wait until the next one pops. Hint, hint. Subtle lessons. Read between the lines. Just wait until the next one pops, and then we do the get together again. We invite people, have some food, talk, chit chat, discuss things. How we plan on it, getting the inheritance, and what the details of their last will, and who's going to get what part of it, and how investments can be made, and how we can prosper out of this man's death. So these are the conversations that have to happen at a funeral. Yeah? Yeah, of course. Die and see. If you don't believe me, just put a voice recorder at your funeral. Place a voice recorder, right? Maybe not immediately by the coffin. Well, you'd be interested to hear all the things that they'd say if you placed a voice recorder just by the coffin. Maybe a little bit further away, around where the food is being served, or where they have the carom table, or the card pack, and where people get together and they start entertaining themselves because it's a party of sorts. So get that recorded and listen to it. Don't ask me how. You work out the logistics. I'm just telling you, this is what you're supposed to do. If you really want to find out what people think about you, wait until you're dead, record what people are saying. Don't tell them that you put the voice recorder there. Record what they've said and then listen to them. Shush. I promise you, I swear to you, you will never want to come back to a human life again. That I promise you. If you listen to those conversations that are had at the expense of your funeral, if you listen and pay close attention to those conversations, I promise you, you will never want to come back to this world ever again. So why are you here back again? That's why. So this system is designed for self-preservation. It's a self-sustaining system. You are designed in a way, the system's designed in a way that you don't get to see these things, the ugly, the gruesome, the horrific, and the horrendous. It's designed in a way that you don't get to see these things, therefore you keep coming back. I'm sure you're shocked at some of the things that people talk about at others' funerals. You think, my gosh, the body is still warm. Yeah, the body hasn't even gone cold yet. Why are we talking about how we are going to split up this man's, what do you call it? Possessions, yes, they're assets. So that's something to think about, because the thing is, the unfortunate thing is, most people spend their lives trying to do and save something for those who they're going to be leaving behind, thinking that that is their solemn and first and foremost duty, to leave something for those that they're going to leave behind, thinking that if you don't, then they will be upset. Well, yes, they will be very upset. That is true. That is very true. But not for the reasons that you think they will. And the reason, the key, the primary reason for that is, in each mind where there is ignorance, there's always a self, and each self, without exception, each self is on a struggle for its own preservation. Without exception. Its own preservation and its own proliferation. Either by doing good, what is conventionally good, or by doing what is conventionally bad. Either way, I have to be here. The thing is, people see no alternative. Therefore, the only two sides of the coin are good and bad. This is how life was taught to us, isn't it? Good and bad are two sides of the same coin. Therefore, you just choose one or the other. And rather than choosing the bad side, our adults, elders, teachers, friends, they all encouraged us to choose the good side. And they always said, try and be a good man, try and be a good person. Don't be the bad person. But it was just the other side of the coin. That's all it was. You flip it again, and chances are it will fall the other side. And this was this coin that was always able to flip one way or the other. So whoever you associated with always had the power to flip that coin one way or the other. And therefore you became who you associated with. Yes or no? You are today who you have associated with over the last years of your life. Or this far in your life, whoever you have associated with, that is who you are today. So you see that you are the product of your associations. Therefore, when your associations change, you change. Spend enough time with people who are vile, vicious and wicked, what will happen to you, do you think? The same will happen. This is why you bring yourself here on a Sunday. Because you know this fact. This is why you don't want to leave your children with those who you do not wish them to become like. Because you know that this is a fact. That you are a product of your associations. Do you or do you not agree with me on this? Yeah, of course it is. That's why parents are very careful about who they leave their children with. That's why you are very careful, very cautious about the books you read, the sites you visit, the friends you associate with, the neighborhood you choose to live in. All of these things matter. The clubs that you take membership of, the associations that you attend, the parties you go to and the ones that you avoid. Oh, you do them all with very good reason. No. Very random. Of course not. There are some parties you will vehemently avoid because you don't want to become like them, and you certainly don't want others to think that you are like them. But the thing is this, the more you spend time with any party, you become one of them. Even if you are the freshest fish, spend enough time with fish that is rotten. In 3 days' time, you will begin to stink. That's how it is. Back to Prince Siddhartha. So these are those little life lessons. These are the gems, if you ask me. The Dhammas, the diamonds. But take any necklace, what do you have more of? Gems or diamonds? Gems, of course. Usually you have one diamond, but several gems. Because you can't afford to have a necklace full of diamonds. You can. Rajagiriya. But even then, we ensure that there are plenty of gems. Whenever we attach a diamond, we attach a good handful of gems. That's the way it works. That's the way it's supposed to work. So when Prince Siddhartha was looking for answers to these problems, he was shocked by the fact that people took these things for granted. I've shared this story with you once or twice before, but it's a good reminder to segue into what I want to talk to you about today. He had a burning question. When a man is sick, why does it make him feel sad? Why does he cry about it? Why does he mentally become agitated about it? It's the body that's sick. If the body is sick, why does the mind become sick as a result of that? What's the connection between these two things? And why are others sad about it? There would have been times of pandemics, just like today, even back then. So, I can't think for a moment that he was completely and 100% entirely isolated from all that was going on in life, because how can you isolate a man from life? I mean, this is what the stories say, but I'm not denying the text, but I still have to apply a bit of common sense. So when I bring in an element of common sense, I have to ask myself the question, how can you isolate a man from life with everything that's going on in life? How do you isolate a man from every conversation that people have with him? Because when people meet, they just talk about life, don't they, generally? I mean, they can talk about what's going on in the kingdom, how royal decisions are being made, and what's happening in the courts and all that. But usually, when we just meet another person, we talk about life generally. Usually the question is, how are you? Well, you think back then it was not that? How's the kingdom? No, he would have been first, how are you? And then his ministers, his servants, he was a very good man. So I'm sure he would have asked his servants, his maids, how are you? How's things? How's your family? So to think that he could have been completely isolated to the point where there was not a single slave, not a single servant, not a single maid, not a single soldier that would have replied, my wife isn't feeling too well, and that's bothering me. My child is feeling very poorly, and that's worrying me. So I can't imagine how he could have been isolated from all of those conversations. And him being the wise man that he is, again, I have to ask a question. How can you isolate a really wise man who is at the pinnacle of his intelligence? All he was yet to figure out is wisdom. But knowledge he had acquired from his teachers, intelligence he was born with, he was gifted with, all of that. He was about to become the Buddha. So he had everything. He was top at his game. He was the alpha. He was there. In everything he did, he came out first. So with a man, can you imagine what his IQ must have been? The princess? Off the charts. No question about that. He was about to discover the Four Noble Truths. Give him a few years, he was going to discover something that no one ever taught him. He was going to use his mind to inspect the mind itself. When have we ever done that? He was ready. He was ready. Just a hair's gap lay between him and Buddhahood. Not a lifetime more, just a few years more. So with all that being what it is at the time, how could you have isolated life from a man who was super intelligent? That baffles me. Therefore, these conversations would have been had. And he's an inquisitive man. He was taught about the human body. Come on. He was taught about the human body. He was taught about warfare. And when there's warfare, there are always casualties. So you think he was taught about warfare, but not taught how to handle casualties? And when his team was losing, when there were deaths on his side, he was not taught about any of that? Let's not take him for a fool, shall we? But if you ask me to interpret what the story says, here's how I would interpret it. You don't have to agree with anything I say. I mean, most times you don't. I keep asking you to come with me, you don't anyway. So you don't have to agree with this either. When it is said that the father, the king, ensured that he was isolated from all of life, all the things that were happening in life, and he was given these 3 palaces where he could enjoy every luxury. Today, as I reflect on that story, the way that I understand it today is, everywhere he witnessed life as it is, he had questions. Why is it this way? Why is it that way? Why are people like this? Why do people get angry? And are there solutions to these problems? Why do people feel lustful? Why are people jealous about each other's gains? Why are people annoyed? Why are people stressed? Why do people fight one another? Because he hadn't practiced those things over the last many eons of his bodhisattva life. He hadn't practiced fighting. He'd practiced forgiving. So to now be faced with animosity, anger, hatred, as well as all the vicissitudes of life as they came to him, he had questions. And I'm sure he would have counseled his father. His father would have been the first person he'd gone and asked. He must have looked up to his father. Certainly, who doesn't? Which loving son doesn't look up to their father? So I can imagine many a conversation he would have had with his father. Father, why do we fight? Why do kings fight? Why do we have a battalion? Why do we have an army? What is it for? If we all love one another, why do we need to protect ourselves? And why are people always sad about all these problems? I ask my servants, I ask my maids, I ask my people, and they tell me that their son is ill, their daughter is ill, the wife is not doing too well, they're having hardships, and they talk about these things with a lot of pain and anguish. Why do people suffer like this? And to all of these problems, King Suddhodana was answerless. So he had no answers to provide him. Of course, he had at the back of his mind that there was a prophecy that he would leave palatial life and go on to seek the truth. So I doubt the king would have encouraged the prince to go and seek answers to such problems by consulting other teachers and ascetics, sages, who were his contemporaries. I don't think the king would have encouraged it actively. He probably would have discouraged it. He would have said, in today's language, Puta, no point. It's just a fact of life. It's just the way it is. There are no answers to these problems. There are no solutions to these problems. It is just how people are. We are jealous by nature. Yuck. We hate one another just by nature. It's an intrinsic quality we have. We hate each other. We see something we like, we don't care who has it. We just want it for ourselves. That's how we are. Don't question it, accept it. These responses would have unsettled the prince no end. But he kept on asking because he was destined to find answers. No wonder he kept on asking. That was his fate. It is what he was destined to do. Find the ultimate answer to all these problems. He would have probably even asked questions like, why is one species two genders? Why? If we are all humans, why one male, one female? Then he would have gone to his tables. Again, he would have seen same species, two genders. Why not a third? Invalid question? No, pretty valid question. Why only two genders? Why can't they be 6? Why not 10? Why only 2? Questions. I can imagine a super inquisitive mind throwing question after question after question after question at his father because his father was the king and he was the man who he looked up to and therefore was supposed to have answers to all his questions. But the king didn't want any of this. He didn't want to entertain any of this because he knew that all these questions would one day vex this young man so much that he would have to go out and find solutions. So he probably would have kept saying, "Pute, it is just the way it is. We just have to accept it." I doubt he would have encouraged him to go and speak to the sages and various other people at the time who were also truth seekers, but they didn't have the answers anyway. They had sort of answers, but not real proper answers. So this is the Buddha's life retold. No book will ever be written on this version of the story. You will never be examined on this. It will never go into the textbooks. It will never go into the school curriculum. This is just for your ears and for your rejoicing. Because I take issue with the fact that we are prepared to insult our Bodhisattva. I have an issue with that. Why are we so prepared to insult the intelligence of a young man who was bound to become our king? If he was going to self-discover the universal truths, and he was built with every skill, acumen, talent that he had to have as a Bodhisattva, then to think that he could simply be let loose and yet not have any questions to ask, and to always be shunned away when came looking for answers, and then for him to have been okay with that, I just can't accept it. But he was at the end of his tether. This is what I feel. So when he went out with the chariot here, that was make or break day. I mean, he had had enough. No answers, all these questions, just no answers. No one was willing to give any answers because no one had any. So really disappointed as always, he came back to the palace, and then it is said that they tried to entertain him again with music and dance and girls. So that is what they always tried to do, entertain him. And so the morning came, he regained his composure, looked around and saw a ghastly sight. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. He looked at the women on the floor, on the dance floor. It was a very pitiful sight. And it certainly made him think, what is the point of any of this nonsense? I have a million questions, no one has any answers. And then simply to quieten me and to keep my mouth shut, they try to entertain me day and night. They try and feed me, they try and give me music, they try and show me dance, they do performances, they send women to my room, but what is the point in any of this? I'm frustrated. That is what he was. He was really frustrated. The prince had been born the night before. His son. But the last straw had been placed. And then he realized, if I stay on any longer, I will just be consumed by this worldly existence. But there was a paramita that was brewing inside of him there was a voice that resonated in the back of his head that kept saying, this is not what you are here for. The world needs you. All sentient beings need you. The universe needs you. Wake up. Go forth. And so finally he surrendered to that voice. Made a resolve. Making resolutions was easy for him because he'd already perfected all that. I dare you to try and change the decision of a bodhisattva, not even a Buddha. When a bodhisattva has made a decision about something, well considered, all facts and figures all done, I dare to try and convince him to change his mind without due reason. Impossible. Not improbable, impossible. Because if you want to see determination, resolution, willpower, courage, being firm with the decision that one has made, the Bodhisattva is your man. I'm not even speaking of the Buddha here. I'm talking about the Bodhisattva. So that was it. He'd had enough. Frustrated to the core. So he decided, no, enough. I need answers. No one's going to give me any. They're all trying to shut me up. They're trying to lull me with all this entertainment. And I'm not going to fall for any of it because that is not what I need. It's not what I'm here for. Therefore, I shall have to go and find answers for myself. Fortunately, he'd also seen an ascetic that the previous night. And the question had been asked, we are told, who is that? To which the answer was, he's a truth seeker. What do you mean a truth seeker? Someone who's trying to find answers to life's problems. So there are people who are like that. Gotcha. So he realized that there are others who were as frustrated as he was. People who were looking for solutions to life's problems, answers, but none were available. That's why they were still seeking. That's what he realized. If there are truth seekers, that means it still hasn't been sought, hasn't been found yet. Therefore, they're still seeking. So there's a problem, and there are people looking for answers. So who has to find it? Who's going to find it now? Who else? That was the voice in the back of his head saying, you are the one who's supposed to go and find the answers. What are you doing at home? But that's not to say that he was still unattached to any of the things that he had to leave behind. He was very much attached to them. He loved his father to bits. His wife and himself, they were soulmates. That was not just a couple. That was not a union for convenience. They were soulmates. If it had been anyone other than Yashodhara, that journey would not have been possible. She would not have let him go, and she would not have let him stay gone. It is said that she was the most beautiful girl at the time. None could match her beauty. But again, it is not just for us to simply talk about her beauty, because that is only one of the aspects. She was such a mother. Motherly love she had in abundance, not just for her own child, but for others as well. You know Mother Teresa. At least you've heard of her, you read about her. But think Mother Teresa and then 100,000 times more. That's the sort of character I'm talking about. Because this is someone who'd made it their sansara's purpose to become the Bodhisattva's companion and then to one day let him go. A resolve that she had made when our Bodhisattva had made a determination to become the Buddha. So I'm helping the young men here who are here with their wives. Make sure they are awake so that they can listen to this story. You like to think of yourself as a Yashodhara, don't you? Some even give their children that name, Yashodhara. But are you one? It's a pretty name. Are you willing to love every child in this world as your own? Can you? That's a Yashodhara. Someone who is prepared to let go of her soulmate so that every child could be loved, could be shown the love that her husband was to discover and share with everyone. She had such faith in him. Just think about that. How much faith she would have had in him. I mean, it was the riskiest venture of all. He was bound to become the king. And it would only be then she would become the queen, if he became the king. Because she'd come from another family. She was not in the bloodline. So there was no way she could become queen. But if he'd become king, then she would have become queen. But that was okay. That's not what she wanted. Are your queens like that, gentlemen? Would they let you go? If they knew that letting you go would mean that they would have to renounce their queenhood? How many of you are in love with Yashodhara? These are not just figures from the past, these are characters. Truly characters. Not just personalities, they are characters, ladies and gentlemen. They're characters. Characters shaped by perfections. Remember, Yashodhara was also due to become an Arahant in that lifetime. So she couldn't have just, hung in there, so to speak. While the prince perfected his perfections as a bodhisattva, Yashodhara couldn't have just hung in there. Just hang in there while I get this done. No. And she was not just about just any old Arahant. She had to become the wife of the to-be Buddha. The man who was the epitome of love and compassion. Now, when do you feel really loved? These feelings of love and affection towards your husband. When do you feel that? When they're very kind to you. When they're very nice to you. When they're very warm and very gentle to you. That's when you feel those emotions. Now think about that, but all the time. Now, if I ask the wives here, would you be prepared to let go of your husbands if I take them with me? You'd probably say, It depends, Swaminathan. It depends when you ask me. If you ask me soon after his return from work, I will bring him to the monastery and hand him over to you. But if you ask me on my birthday, at least the ones he doesn't forget. If you ask me on my birthday, at least the ones that he doesn't forget, then no, that's going to be a tough one. Then I can't let him go. So you see, the answer changes depending on how you feel. How you feel changes depending on how they treat you. But you know the good times, the times where he's very loving to you, the times where he makes you feel like you are everything to him, like you are his world. So the unmarried putas here, plug your ears. This is just a horror story disguised as a fairy tale, okay? These are fairy tales. All these relationships are just different manifestations of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Prove me otherwise or prove me wrong, I will come home with you today. I will disrobe and come with you. If you are prepared to prove to me with fact, evidence, that relationships are more than you scratch my back, I scratch yours. If you speak of such a relationship, you're only talking about noble relationships, noble associations, where there is no expectation from the other party. 0 expectations, 100 given for their own good, for the good of the other person, nothing expected. There are no good days and bad days. So as I said, if you go back into Yashodhara's life, her entire life was one where her husband was always good to her. Because remember, these are not just couples. This was not a match made by some matchmaker. They were soulmates. In countless lives, they had been together. So this, you say, match made in heaven? This was a match not just made in heaven. This was a match that was made for entire samsara. In the recent times of samsara, they had always been together. So you can understand the kind of affection and love and unity and harmony they would have had with each other. How understanding they must have been to each other. I can't think of any other relationship that is like that in a worldly context. So that is a matchless, it's a peerless relationship of that kind. And then for her to let go of her husband, to make her mind up that her husband was never to come back again, that she would never be able to hold his hand in the same way that she used to, that she would never be able to embrace him. She knew that if he's gone, he's not going to come back until he accomplishes whatever it is he's after. That he knew, that she knew. Of course she knew that. Because she knew the kind of character that Siddhartha was. I mean, they'd lived with each other for some time, at least even in that life. So she knew if he sets his mind on something, there's no turning back until he achieves it. So she knew for good that if he's gone, he's not going to be coming back. But she endured that. No one else could replace him. Not that she wanted a replacement, but even if she did, no one could match him. So she was to remain single. Please remember that she had no Dhamma at the time. The only solace she had was a vague resemblance to her soulmate, and that was Rahula. But even then she didn't know that she would have to bid farewell to Rahula as well soon. So with no Dhamma, can you imagine how she must have spent the first few days? Ladies, wives, I ask you, can you imagine how she must have spent those first few days? This is not her boyfriend who left. Okay? This is not her boyfriend. Even the word husband does not cut it. This is her sansaric partner, her soulmate. It would be true to even say that she was born for him. They were born for each other. But with no Dhamma, she still endured all that. She could have quite easily asked her father or his father to go and fetch him. If he'd sent enough troops, they would have found him. I mean, they knew which direction in which he left. All they'd have to go is go and find the dead horse. And that would be the last point where he would have been. Why a dead horse? As the story goes, that was his favorite horse on which he rode. And as he got off the horse and bid farewell to them, this is the story, the animal couldn't bear the pain of that loss and it broke his heart. That's an animal. Now think about Yashodhara. You want a romantic story? I'll give you one. And then you ask yourself whether you have ever lived one. Whether you have actually ever truly experienced romance. In comparison to this, everything else is just nothing. Because it's always a case of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. The purpose of both of their lives was Buddhahood, enlightenment. But remember, Yashodhara had no medicine. Her heart wept, she cried, she grieved, she lamented, she was sorrowful, days, weeks. People would have come up to her and asked her, so when the prince begins to understand things, who are you going to say his father is? They would have asked, what are you going to say, his father's dead? Or gone abroad? What are you going to tell him? Because the prince started to grow, certainly. So these were questions to which Siddhartha left no answers. So there was no letter left for her to read and have all the answers. There was no phone number to call in case of an emergency. And he never posted his status updates like they might do today. I mean, sometimes even when people go on retreats, it's not really a retreat. You can't really retreat because you have to keep sending status updates. I'm on the Himalayas in meditation. See? I'm at the temple doing vipassana. See? Doing vipassana. Posting status updates, doing vipassana. So none of that was available. So I ask you, how many Yashodaras are here? If you really think of yourself as a Yashodara, then tell your husband. Tell your husbands. My darling, I will be your Yashodara. You go. But not after he comes back from work, okay? Not at that time. On your birthday, you have to say, you have to do this. On your birthday, on the birthday that he hasn't forgotten. Not on the birthday that he's forgotten. Then also it will be easy to say, I'm Yashodara, yeah, go. And these are lives of legends. Legendary. On a legendary scale, these are matchless, peerless lives. All we can do is not become like them, but take examples from them. And see if there are at least aspects of their lives we can embody into our own. I'm certainly not going to suggest to anyone become the Bodhisattva, or become Yashodara, or become Rahula, or become Ananda, the Thero, become Sariputta. I certainly would not suggest that to anyone. But what I would say is study their lives, because these are lives of legends. And when a life is legendary, there are lessons that can be learned from those lives. At least they will serve. At least they will serve as a model. At least they will serve as an exemplary character. Never quite matched, but always aspired to. At least if you can take inspiration. So these were the circumstances around that so-called renunciation, but it was not a renunciation at all. Do you understand how it wasn't a renunciation at all? In the conventional sense, the books will say that it was, but it wasn't, because their minds were not prepared to let go of each other. They were still very much attached, and that is why they cried. And that is why they had sleepless nights. I ask you again, just imagine what Yashodhara, the queen or the princess, would have had to experience, what she would have gone through, certainly in the first week, the first few days, the first few hours of discovering that he had left. Some say she was awake when it happened. Other versions of the story say that no, she wasn't. So there are different takes on this. Either way, I think the pain would have been no different. If she'd been awake, just imagine how tough that must have been. Awake, fully aware that he's leaving, and then to hold herself back, not to say a word, for fear that it might discourage him. She is about to lose the most loving man on the planet. No one could love her like him, like he could. And she's about to lose him. Never to embrace him again, never to hold his hand again, never to spend time with him again, never to exchange endearing words with him ever again. This was goodbye for now and forever. She didn't even know that he had plans to come back once he had attained Buddhahood. Because there was no plan for Buddhahood. Where was the plan? Because Buddhahood was not defined back then. How can you make a project plan if you don't know what the destination is? So it wasn't a project, it was an adventure. But to you, Arahanthood is a project, is it not? This is the distinction I really want you to understand. To the prince, Buddhahood was not a project, it was an adventure. Whether he would discover it or not remained to be found. But to you and I, Arahanthood is not a project, is not an adventure, it's a project. We know the destination, we have defined the destination, we know what it looks like, we know what we need to do to get there. Plenty of examples have been set before us. So there's a book called Lessons Learned. We can always go back and refer to those lessons. There are people available who are on that path, who have completed that path, who are walking alongside us, who are miles ahead of us, a few inches ahead of us, walking alongside us. Every bit of confidence you need is just readily there. Every assurance you need is there. Every support you need is there. But this is not something the Bodhisattva had. So, ask yourself, the magnitude of the gift that he bestowed upon you. You know what he did? He transformed an adventure into a project. That's what he did. He transformed an exploration into a discovery. You no longer need to discover Arahanthood. You just need to go fetch it. But when he went on it, it was an exploration. That is the man we call the Supreme Buddha. Now, do you realize the privilege that we all have? Or this is why I say, he renounced nothing because he had no Dhamma, no Dhamma to develop his mind, to cultivate Sila, Samadhi or Prajna, to then be released of those attachments, to sever those attachments. He had nothing to do that with. No tools, no techniques, no tricks up his sleeve. But today we have all that. We have the tools, we have the techniques, we have the methods, we have the philosophy, we have the teaching, we have the schools, we have the dispensation, we have everything. Back then, all he had was himself. Everything else had to be discovered. Today, we have everything. All we don't have is ourselves. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. If you can picture a jigsaw puzzle. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle where there is just one piece and there's no finished product, no picture. Usually on jigsaw puzzle boxes, the front of it has the picture of what the end product needs to look like. But imagine you have a box, but the cover lost. Nowhere to be found. The pieces are strewn across. They are somewhere around the house. You have to go find them. An old jigsaw puzzle box. But you found one piece. Now your task is to go locate the other pieces. But the cover is gone, so there's no picture to look at. You have to just go find the other pieces. Bring them But you have one piece, and now piece them all together and complete the jigsaw. Volunteers? And you have to do it in a certain in a certain duration of time, because he knew that he was already 28. Assuming they could live up to, say, 120 back then, which he didn't, he only lived up to 80. So, assuming they could live up to 120, and he was already 28, they had about 70 years left. He had about 70 years left. But let's assume that he actually knew that he would only live up to 80. He was 28. Only 50 years left. In 50 years' time, he was supposed to go looking for all these pieces of the jigsaw. No picture to look at. There was only one piece, and that was himself. And he had to go and somehow find and complete the jigsaw. Now let's look at ourselves. The picture's there. All the other pieces are there. One piece is missing. The puzzle is only incomplete because that piece has not been placed there. 50 years it took him, it took him another 6 years to find all the pieces and complete the jigsaw, where he had no picture to look at, no reference image. You? The picture's there. All the other pieces are there. Only one piece is missing. How long have we been meeting like this? How long have we been meeting up like this? It took him 6 years, okay? To do what? No picture. No pieces. Only one piece. With just that one piece, he had to go find the other pieces, all the relevant pieces. Disregard all the other pieces that were not relevant, because there were plenty others as well. He went to the 5 ascetics first. They give him some pieces and he said no. He tried them for many years and he said no. These are not the pieces I came looking for, because he didn't complete the picture. Because there was no picture, no reference image to look at and to see whether that piece that he picked up from the 5 ascetics were any of the pieces that he needed. That took him 6 years. But now it's a very different ball game altogether. You have all the pieces and the image is there as well. There are also others who have been piecing their own jigsaws, and you can go and talk to them, ask them, counsel them, speak to them. If you have any questions, doubts, clarify, get them all done. Just one piece you have to put in there. How many years do you need? So how many? 150 recently we did, didn't we? So that's 50 times 3. That's 50 times 3 is 3, or rather 150. That is 3 years. So 3 years we are now done with. The Bodhisattva needed 6 to go find all the pieces. Right? You've already done 3. All the pieces are there. The picture's there. All you need to do is just put that one piece. We've already done 3 years now. So how many more years do you need? Another 3. Some are looking at me like, but you won't take this piece. Well, to them I'm sorry, but I have to say, please find peace wherever you are. But to the others, just one piece missing. All the other pieces are there. How much more time do you need? Well, the thing is probably, the Bodhisattva knew that he would die 80-ish, whereas on the other hand with you, you know that you have a very long life left ahead of you. Don't we? Several decades. I think I got it right the first time. Several centuries left ahead of you. Therefore, you have all the time in the world to just take that one piece and slowly put it there. Take all the time you need. How privileged we are. How privileged we are. See, every piece that you place when you build this puzzle is a piece that helps you to figure out where the next piece needs to go, is it not? When you build your puzzle, your jigsaw, every piece that you place in the right place supports you to figure out, helps you to figure out where the next piece should go. Yes? So every piece of Dhamma that I share with you helps you figure out where that piece that you have to put down needs to go. So week on week on week on week, I keep telling you, that's where you have to put your piece, that's where you have to put your piece, that's where you have to put your piece. So you come and hold your piece like this every week. I tell you, put it there. You're like, where? There. Where? There. Where? There. Oh, there. No, there. That's what our Dharmishta Rajagirians are mostly like. Week on week, here, put it there, there. Where? All the pieces are there. Just one piece missing. What are you waiting for? How many more years do you need? He only needed 6, and he had to go find all the other pieces. There was no picture to look at. For you, all the other pieces are there, just one piece missing, and that is you. You just had to put that one piece. I don't think there's anyone here who has any doubt as to where that piece needs to go. You know where it needs to go. So what's the hesitation? You have so many what ifs and but ifs. So many what ifs and so many but ifs. These are things that the Bodhisattva could not afford to have. He could not afford them. He couldn't but if and what if. He just had to go do it. Because no one had done it before him. So there was nothing for him to look at and go, what if it doesn't work? Because there was nothing there to ask the question of, what if that doesn't work? What if what doesn't work? Exactly. Nothing was there to doubt. If you get what I mean? There was nothing there to doubt. That's how bad the situation was. There was nothing even there to doubt in the first place. Today you can come up to me and ask, or go to Guru Hamdana and ask, Guru Hamdana, if I come into this asana, what if you don't have enough food to feed me? What if I don't like it? What if I feel like I want to watch TV again? What if I feel like I want to eat some ice cream? Then what if, Guru Hamdana? You say this, that, and that, but if my aunt comes and says, you have to come back home. My great-great-great-grandmother comes and asks me to come back home. Then what if? Then but if? This is where you are. So many whats and so many buts. So I think we shouldn't change that name, not Dharmishta Rajagirians. Buddhist Rajagirians. And don't spell that with 2 T's, then it won't look too nice. Or maybe you should. I only speak to you like this because I know the urgency here. I feel it because I'm in it and I know it. I'm not just dipping my toes into the water and inviting you to take a dip. That's not what I'm doing, as you can see. I'm in the water. I'm submerged in the water. I'm swimming in it. And I can experience its cooling effect. You are on the shore, you're on the bank in flames. Picture that. You are a flame. Not you are a flame, you are a flame. Meaning you're on fire. Think of yourself, picture yourself. This is you. You're a flame. You're on the bank. There's many of us here. Some in red, some in white, some in yellow. There are plenty of us there. There are some just getting into it. They still have the flame, but they know what needs to be done. But the portion to which you have got yourself into the water, that part, the flame is now extinguished. And the beauty with this flame, or the beauty with the water, is that once the fire is put out, it is never lit again. Where do you identify yourself? Here. Where do you identify yourself? Here. Or here. Why? You are not the first one. You need not be the first one. Therefore, it's not an adventure. It's a project. When this was the prince, there was no one in the water. Actually, he was just running around a flame, looking for a pool of water, not even knowing what water could do. So for him, it was an experiment. It's hard to imagine with this analogy, but just try and think of it. There's a man aflame, and he doesn't know that water has the ability to extinguish a fire. So even if he ran past a pool of water, he wouldn't feel the instinct to jump into it. Therefore, that would be merely an experiment, would it not? That's what your Buddha did. He carried out an experiment. He jumped into the water because his good merits and his paramita led him to the bank of the water. And he jumped into the water and he realized, this is it. Finally found it. This is it. My fires have been extinguished. And once extinguished, he cannot be lit on flames again. So he didn't just stay in the water. He then got out and he went around. He sacrificed and dedicated his life looking for people who are still aflame, inviting them to take the plunge. But could he, now having extinguished his flames, put out their flames? Could he do it to them or for them? Was that possible? No, because the water is where the water is. Do you understand? The water is where the water is. Therefore, all he could do is point them at the water. He said, go, there's water. I found the pool. And the pool was always there. It's just that I never knew that if you just jumped into the water, your fires could be extinguished. I never knew that. But I discovered that it's possible to do. Therefore, let me show you where the water is. Would you come? And then they have questions. But if the journey is too long to the water, then this man's a flame. His head's on fire. His body's on fire. His legs are on fire. His arms are on fire. And he has a question. What if the journey to the pool is a long one? What if? But if I get hungry along the way? He doesn't realize he's being cooked. Eat your freaking self if you get hungry. You're being cooked. You're on fire. That is his question. What if I get hungry? What if I feel lonely? Says a man who's aflame. What if I miss my family? Says a man who's aflame. Can I put status messages on the way? Can I still listen to my music? Once you're in the water, you can't even listen to music. The headphones will get wet. Oh. That's his problem. The headphones will get wet because it's in the water. Yeah, you get waterproof ones. So you have to then find the waterproof ones. That's his problem. What about the fruits on the trees? While I'm out here, I can climb on the trees and get whatever fruits I want, and I can eat those fruits. But if I go into the water, I can only eat what's in the water. Then there's only seaweed or whatever weeds there are in the pool. I want more. I want variety. That is the spice of life. Says a man who's on fire. So many what ifs and so many but ifs. I'm glad that it was the Buddha who decided to give the Dhamma to people, because if it had been someone like me, if it was up to me to go and talk to people and say, hey, there's a pool, will you come? What if yourself? Go fly one, you come and let me know when you're ready. Fortunately, he became the Buddha before he became the Buddha. No, but on a serious note, does this not very elaborately describe the situation that you're in today? Does this not depict the predicament that you find yourself in? See, you are a flame. You can give these flames all sorts of names. These are flames of desire, aversion, and delusion at the fundamental level. But then beyond that, these are flames of anger, greed, lust, jealousy, fear, sorrow, anxiety, stress, depression. All of these things, you name them. Every time and any time you feel hurt, pain, you're on fire, stressed, you start sweating, you feel anxious. All of these are the flames. You're being burnt alive. You have a few years before this flame will burn you. Some are lucky and fortunate enough to discover that they're on fire early on in their lives. Others aren't. But the thing is this, even those who discover that they're a flame early on in their lives, if they don't have the intelligence to do something about it, they're no different to those who discover it either late or don't discover it at all. Whether you discover that these are flames and that can be put out when you take a dip in the water or not, the pain is still there nevertheless. And you are evidence of this. You are the best testimony. When you're at work, how are you? You're on fire. When you're at home, how are you? You're on fire. That's why you want to watch TV when you're at home. Even when you're at home, you want to watch TV. Now the Dhamma must have done a little bit of something for you, but take yourself back to before then. Even when you were at home, you watch TV. What did that tell you about home? Why would one want to watch TV if they're at home, and home is where your heart is and all that gobbledygook? If home is where the heart is, then that is where you have to be at your happiest. Yeah? Then why do you have a TV? A TV at the workplace? I get it. A TV at the garage while you wait until your car gets serviced? I get that. A TV at the supermarket while you do your shopping? I get that. A TV at home? We've got a problem there. Because if home is where you are happy, then you need not have a TV. But where do you have all your TVs? Why are you looking so embarrassed? It's a simple question. The only reason you indulge your senses is because your mind is unhappy. Agreed or not? So most of the time when you watch TV, do you actually watch something that is useful? Or something just to while away the hours? Because existence is so painful. Therefore, to forget the fact that you exist and to hallucinate yourself with what you see on TV, you just switch off from life's problems for a short while. Because they're so good like that, they intoxicate you for about 1.5, 2 hours, 3 hours. They do that. They are masters of that in Hollywood and Bollywood. So every so often they give you a 3-hour painkiller. Yeah. Whether they're blockbusters or not, they're certainly pain busters for a good few hours. They'll kill your pain for a little while, but the mental disease is still there. No film, no movie, no teledrama has ever cured a man of loneliness. No, 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 no. I will refuse to accept that. No song, no album, no artist has ever healed a man of loneliness. The art galleries do not do anything. They're only painkillers. They don't treat the problem. The cinema is only painkillers. Those fancy websites where you spend half of your life away, these are only painkillers. They don't wash away your problems. The restaurants that you go to with your friends and have a nice meal, let's go out for a dinner, let's go out for a meal. These things are mere painkillers. It's like when you're on fire, rolling on the floor. When you're rolling on the floor, the part that doesn't come into contact with the floor, that part doesn't feel so hot. But the moment you turn yourself again, you're back in flames. There's only one way to put out this flame. Therefore, every other endeavor is a pointless, useless, futile exercise. And what's striking is that the pool has been discovered. And yet, alas, we are all on the shore, flaming hot. It's really funny, isn't it? People are on flames like this. And then when they go to these chicken places, they get the flaming hot sauce. For extra spice. They're already on fire. When you go to shop buy your ketchup, whatever, you get the extra spicy ones. You're already on fire. So when you want to eat your drumsticks, whatever, just, rub it all over your body because there's plenty of fire. It's spicy enough like that. You don't need extra spice. You're spicy enough. You're flaming hot. This is the layman's sermon of what you're supposed to do with this asana. This everyone understands. Anicca dukkha anatta, not everyone does. Paticca samuppada, not everyone does. Cause and effect, not everyone makes sense of. When I talk about the self, not everyone can understand, but this everyone can understand. From the youngest child in the audience to the most senior individual here, you can all understand. But I want you to think about this rather than taking this simply as it's a nice story. What a great simile. It's not what this is for. This is not for effect. It's not to entertain you. It's for impact. See which side of this you are. If you feel you're there, fabulous. If you see yourself here, then please understand that you are a flame. And you know that not because I say so. You know that you are a flame. You know how you suffer. You know the torment that you have to go through. You know how every situation that you have to face at the workplace, at home, among friends, when you go out, wherever. They torture you no end. You know this, ladies and gentlemen. You know this. There's always tension with every relationship that you have. There's always a bit of tension, more or less. Every relationship has tension. Are you going to tell me that you have no tension with your spouses? Don't nod. Just blink. Look at me and blink. Okay, yes, got it, yeah. Tension. What about the in-laws? Don't blink so fast. Oh, your eyes will pop out. You wanted the spouse, but along came with the package. The in-laws. No end of tension there. You just can't figure out whether it's a good day or a bad day with them. It's just like the weather. One day is a good day, next day you think, oh, yesterday we had a good day, today, so it turns out to be a bad day. Who decides? They decide. You just have to succumb to it. But the funny thing is, that's what they say about you as well. It's always like that. When you have a string and there's tension in the wire, you ask either end where the tension's coming from. Take a string, tie it at either end, and ask either of the nodes where they think, from their perspective, where tension's coming from. What do you think they're going to say? From the opposite end. Not me. I'm the good guy here. It's all them. That is a universal truth about every relationship. Wherever the tension's coming from, it's always from the other side. Now parents say, with your children, no tension? Parents and children, no tension? No tension? No attention, that's what there is. You can never pay attention. All there is tension. Then ask the children about the parents. Children, look at me and blink. Oh gosh. Parents, look at me, don't look at your children. There's plenty of that. Siblings, no tension. Neighbors, no tension. Always tension. Boss. Boss, your boss. No tension. Only tension. Your employees, your subordinates, no tension. As you drive on the streets, no tension. At the supermarket, no tension. All of this is tension. What I mean by tension is you're a flame. You're a flame. And the water is just a walk away. People who are swimming in the water come to you once a week and tell you, there's a lake. And you say, is that so? They come to you and say, there's a lake. Let's go. I just came from there. I was a flame. Now I'm not. I'm as cool as a cucumber. Come, let's go. You say, is that so? But if. So you're here trying to figure out all the answers to your but ifs and your what ifs. But please don't forget that water will dry up one day. Okay? The pool is not going to be, there's going to be a drought, yes. There's most certainly going to be a drought. There have always been droughts. There have always been droughts. So there's not going to be water there forever. While it's there, you have the chance to get in. If it so happens that you break a leg while you're aflame, don't forget, you will not be able to walk nor run to the water. Because no one can carry you. How can they carry you? You're a flame. Therefore, you have to work yourself there. You have to walk yourself there. Walk it or run it, whatever. You have to do it yourself. Glide there if you must. But if you break a leg, you can't. If you break an arm, if you break your neck, then if you fall and you're wounded and you can't get yourself back up, then how can you get yourself there? Therefore, while you're still in one piece, while you still can, while there's still enough energy, I suggest, and while there's still water there, while there are still people there swimming, therefore you don't have to even jump into it before asking them. You can go up there and say, hey, excuse me, is everything okay in the water? How many of you are there? Is there plenty there, enough water for everyone? You can, do all these what ifs and but ifs and all that. And are there enough people there to convince me that it's safe to jump into the water? You're not a bodhisattva. When he was there, there was no one in there. He carried out an experiment. You need not do any experiments. For you, it's a project. So you can do it now. Why hesitate then? Why delay? Each and every one of you must think about this for yourselves. Remember, as you hear the call, you will look at others who are with you. So when we ask you to come, you might ask me, but if, what if? Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. I mean, that's all I can say, right? Okay. If you being a flame or you putting your fire out is dependent, if you feel that your putting out of your fires is dependent on others doing the same with you, okay. Then come when you're ready. But let's not forget that you can all only do it for yourselves. It's a cause of personal salvation. It's personal salvation. You can't do family salvations. You can't do community salvations. This is a personal salvation. The best you can do is try and convince them, hey, I'm going to the water now. I've had enough of this, I'm a flame, look at me, I'm burnt. I'm burnt like a block of coal. Enough of this. Will you come? Then they will certainly ask you, what? What if? The same questions that you ask us. But if? What if? What if my uncle says no? Who's going to feed the dogs then? Questions. What are we going to do with the fish tank? And the cats? We have 3 hamsters. And the squirrels on the trees, who's going to feed them when we are gone? And besides, the money that we owed this person, that person, the other person, when we are gone, they won't even return them. They might keep it and not give it back to us. What if that happens? So let's stick around until all of our debtors have repaid their debts. Let's return. Okay. It's okay for me to give that answer, is it not? Okay. If you're okay, if you're okay, then I'm okay. But here's when I would not be okay. If my flame, or the putting out of my flame, extinguishing my flame is dependent on you doing it, then I will kick you into the water. And if you are not ready to go, I will carry you and throw you into the water. You are lucky that my salvation is my personal affair. Huh? Just be glad that my salvation is my personal affair, because if any of you if it are dependent on any of you getting into the water, I will bring a truck like Noah did when he with his ark. I will build one and put you all into it. And then I will push it myself or carry it on my shoulders if I must, and topple you all into the water. You are just so lucky and so fortunate, and so be glad that my salvation is not dependent on yours. Everyone give us sadhukara. That is the only reason I allow you to be like this. Okay? The only reason I allow you to give me excuses and just buy time, because you're not buying time from me, you're trying to purchase time from Mara. I don't know what deal you have with him. You work it out. I don't know the terms of the contract. And whether he's so generous that you feel that he will give you enough time, as much time as you need. Seems to be you struck a really fair deal with Mara that I never had the privilege of. The Grim Reaper, that guy. So death seems to be have very favorable terms with you. I'm especially looking at the young ones in the audience, young and youngish ones. Those who claim that Mara has struck them a really fair and very generous deal. Okay. But you are lucky. I would like to have you know that the only reason I am not pulling you by your neck, not hand, the only reason I'm not holding you by your neck and pulling you with me, dragging you along with me, is because my Nibbāna is not dependent on yours. That is the only reason. Because me putting out my fire is a soul venture. It's only dependent on my perseverance, my determination, my resolution, my willpower, my sila, my samadhi, my prajna. So, aren't you happy about that? Good, you're happy about that as well, aren't you? That is the only reason I've cut you this much slack. Because my Nibbāna is not dependent on yours. For if it had been, there would only have been one sermon. 150 weeks ago, one sermon. I would not have waited for your spouses to give you approval, or your parents to give you the go-ahead, or your children to go and find some other way to survive. I would not have waited for any of that. Because when it comes to Nibbāna, where Nibbāna is the only bliss, when I'm in the water and I have put off my fire, that is when I become a convincing agent of Nibbāna. For as long as I remain up here and come and talk to you, just imagine if I came and talked to you in lay clothes as a layman. Just picture that. I mean, don't picture that. But virtually picture that. Picture me as a layman coming up to you and saying, let's do Nibbāna, ladies and gentlemen. And my wife's in the audience. Just imagine that. So I get out of my car. I come in driving. I get out of my car. I hold the door open for my wife, because I'm a gentleman like that. And then the kids get out as well. So we all come. Come on, little ones. So I bring them in. I ask them to sit down. I ask the kids to go and play while I do the sermon. So if I did that, how convincing would I be? And if I said, I have to finish the sermon a bit early today because tomorrow I have to get into work early. I have a report I have to submit on time. And I'm keeping my eye on the bonus for this year. So I'm aiming for a good bonus this year because, I've got my trips planned. I've got this, that, and the other thing planned. So, I can't upset the boss. If I came and spoke to you like that, how convincing would I be? How many anagarikas and anagarikas would come and go to the monastery? Because you would come up to me and you would be like, hello? Won't you? Would you not come up to me and tell me, if you talk the talk, why don't you walk the walk? Would you not tell me that? This is what I'm saying. I come from the water. I didn't just dip my toes into it. I got into it. And I have experienced the cooling effect of the water. It's soothing. It's healing. It's purifying. It's detoxing. And all that good stuff. And then some. And then I come up to you and say, just as the Buddha did once, just as everyone who's walked in his footsteps do at some point or the other, I come up to you and say, the water's there. Why don't you? So that's that. I think everyone understood today's sermon. Didn't you? I think everyone understood today, every word of today's sermon. I was going to come and talk to you about jati and the deception of jati and how it's like a chameleon. How it's so good at disguising itself. That was what I thought as I walked in through these doors. But this is what happened. These things never stick to a plan. Why? That is the whole point of anicca. Nothing can ever be predetermined. Everything is a manifestation of causes that present themselves in that moment. As long as it has been of use to you, and it has given you food for thought, and at least if you've started to think either for yourself or someone you know, someone you love, someone you care about, why stay outside a flame when it's possible to go and get into the water and cool yourself down and heal yourself once and for all? For good, done, that's it, finished. You don't have to come back for leftovers, you don't have to come back for anything. No unfinished business, it's all done. Once done, it's done. It's possible, ladies and gentlemen. I went, got in the water, and I have come back because I want you to be convinced. That is why I don't come here and speak to you in layman's clothes. Because I went in there first. Before I invited you, I took a dip. I didn't speak to you before I went in there myself. I went in there myself. I did everything you did, and then something else. And then I have come back, and I speak to the people who are still doing the things that I used to do. And I tell you, there is an alternative. To be convinced, you need merit. To be convinced, you need noble association. You are gifted with both. The key takeaway from today's talk, I think this story will stick with you, but the key takeaway from today's talk is that for the Bodhisattva it was an adventure. For you, it's a mere venture, no adventure. Don't forget that. That is a privilege. A privilege that the Bodhisattva could not enjoy. A privilege that Yashodhara did not have. A privilege that Rahula, growing up, walking up to his mother and asking his mother, "Where's my father? How come other boys are playing with their father, but I don't get to my father? Where is he?" That's a privilege that he didn't have. But your son has it. Your son who is now at Noble Hearts, he has it. We gave him the Dhamma first. We gave you the Dhamma first. We taught you the Dhamma first. We didn't say come first and then learn the Dhamma. We gave you the Dhamma first. But to the Buddha, no. He had to go first and then find the Dhamma. Do you see the difference between these two characters? Us, you, I, and the Buddha. Before I conclude, I want to show you a lovely video. This is of your trip to Andigama. If you were at the monastery yesterday, you would have watched this, but not many of you were. And even if you were, it was not you who saw it. That is one, this is another. So watch it not again, but for the first time. How many things happen twice? How many things happen twice? 3 times, 4 times, 5 times? Nothing. Every incident is unique. It's never happened before and it will never happen again. How is that so? That is exactly what anicca, dukkha and anatta teach us. Therefore, you rejoiced yesterday, rejoice now. Yesterday's rejoicing will bring you merit. And the fruits of those merits will be yours. Today's rejoicing will bring you another share of merits. That will be yours to enjoy. But your visit to Andigama, as Guru Handra put it himself, would be a great experience, both to Dambulla and to Andigama. I don't have a video of Dambulla to show you this week, but I probably have something for you next week. Those who were there, you know what it was and what happened, and you enjoyed and took part in everything that was there. But for those of you who weren't there, this was a sasanic celebration of a great offering that was made. I started this talk by talking about how the Buddha was not able to renounce because he had no Dhamma. His physical renunciation came first, and the mental renunciation came after he discovered the Dhamma. Whereas now, there are people among you, devotees among you, disciples of the Buddha among you, who once acquired all these things because you wanted to preserve things for yourself, for you, your family, your children, your people. That is what you care about the most. But through the Dhamma, you are beginning to understand that my child is no different to another child. I am no different to another. We're all just collections of energy. And my happiness is no bigger or better than someone else's happiness. Happiness is happiness, and suffering is suffering. There's no competition here. There's not a case of who gets to free themselves from suffering before the next or before another. With that understanding, you are now able to share what you have with everyone. And what you will witness in a moment is an instance of that coming to fruition. A gentleman among you decided that it was time for him to share something that he had acquired with everyone. And because we are here giving the Dhamma, and the Dhamma teaches that we are all no different from each other, and the Dhamma is everyone's to have. Is this just for Buddhists, or for Christians or Muslims, or for atheists or non-religious people? This is for everyone. Therefore, whatever is cultivated on that land is for everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It is not for the sick or the well, it is not for the poor or the rich, it is not for the black or the white, it is not for the Buddhists or the non-Buddhists, it's for everyone. Do you understand? Everyone? It's a universal offering. If the Devas can come and partake in it, may they. If the Brahmas can come and partake in it, may they. Because Nibbāna is for everyone. That is what I want you to see as you watch this video. An offering made to everyone. See what is possible because we have the Sri Sambuddha Sasana. Just think for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, the transformation that must have happened in a mind to be able to share something like that with everyone. Whatever transformation has happened in you is similar to what has been happening in others' minds. But some have a lot to begin with, others might not. That's okay. It's not about how much you give. It's about your willingness to give. The acceptance that everything belongs to everyone. Then actually it's not a giving to, it's a giving up. The distinction is very, very beautiful. I talked about this once with you. To give to someone is very different to giving up something. Because when you give to, you're always giving it to someone. It's again a subset of everything. Then you're very particular about who gets it and who doesn't get it. Isn't it? When you give to someone. But when you give up something, then are you precious about who takes it? Are you precious about who benefits from it? Who does this asana belong to? Everyone. It's the most prized universal possession. The Buddha discovered it for everyone in this universe. It's a gift to everyone. Therefore, when you give something to the Sri Sambuddha Sasana, it's a gift to the entire universe. That is why the universe pays back and pays dividends. Because it's a gift to the universe. So I want you to understand the profoundness of giving to the sasana. It is not the same as giving to a friend, because then it's to the friend. If someone else takes it, it doesn't settle with you. Sometimes you give something to someone, and if you see it with someone else, you might even go and ask your friend, "Hey, I gave this to you the other day, how come that guy's wearing it?" That unsettles you. Why? Because you gave it to. But if you give up something, does it matter who takes it? Does it matter who picks it up? Who uses it? Who benefits from it? Exactly. That's what the sasana is. The sasana cultivates your ability not to give to, but to give up. That is where the sasana stands above everything else. Because once you give up, ladies and gentlemen, it is the universe who accepts it. But when you give to, you're giving it to something or someone that has isolated, separated itself from the universe. Therefore, they're not prepared for the universe to have it. That's what it is. They're not prepared for the universe to have it. But when you give up, that is a giving to the universe. What you give is what you get. Who you give to is who you get from. Therefore, when you give to the universe, it is the universe who pays back. And that is what you were all part of. Both when you were there on the day as well as when you were here rejoicing in it. They're equally powerful. That is why we make efforts to organize these events. When you have the good thought to do something for this asana, we try and organize something to the best of our ability. Could it have been done better? I'm sure it could have. But we all got together and we did it to the best of our ability. As long as we are happy, that's what matters. This doesn't have to be grand, doesn't have to be the best. What is the best? As long as we are happy and we have earned merits out of it, and it has helped us progress on the path to Nibbāna, that is the best. So that's what happened. Previously I showed you a video of another land in Baddagam, where we cultivated coconut. Another offering by the Dharmisha Rajagirian community. Another giving to the sasana, to the universe. Whether it is a pen or a pendant, if it's given to the sasana, matters not what price it is. If it's given to the sasana, it's given to the universe. That's why I have all of you. I give myself to the sasana. Today I can come to any of you with my arms ball and hold it to you. And you will do your fullest, your best to look after me. But back then I was not like that. I wanted to be looked after by my mother, by my father, by my family, by my wife. That is who I thought I belonged to when I was a flame. That is who I thought I belonged to. Therefore, if I had come and knocked on your door back then, excuse me, hello, anything to eat? You think you would have welcomed me, given me a chair, put a nice cloth over it, and actually got on your knees and said, please, would you partake on a meal? Maybe give you this, maybe give you that. May I take you back and drop you off? Do you think you would have done that? No, it would be very unfair to expect it of you because I hadn't given myself to you first. I'd only given myself to a few, not to the universe. But see what the Buddha helped me do? He helped me become everyone's. That is what Guru Handro gave me. He helped me, he showed me that I could become everyone's. Not someone's, everyone's. Therefore today I belong to you, madam, I belong to you, madam, I belong to you, madam, and to you, madam, and to you, sir, and to you, sir, and to you, sir. Sir, madam, sir, you, I belong to all of you. Therefore, all of you are prepared to look after me. That is freedom. Freedom from having to look after myself. You still have to look after yourself, don't you? You still have to look after yourself. That's why you still have to do 9 to 5. You still have to spend your days doing things you don't like to do. That's what 9 to 5 is. That's what Monday to Friday is it not? Doing things that you don't like to do. But you have to do it because you have to look after yourself. I don't do things I don't like to do. I only do things that I like to do. Because I no longer have to look after myself. I'm here. Come. Come all ye who are weary and burdened, and I shall set you free. Let's leave it there for today. Shall we take a moment to transfer the merits? Merits of listening to the sermon, merits of looking after each other, helping set this place up, refreshments, whatever ways in which you have contributed to that, the video that you just watched, all of that. Let us make a determination that those merits shall be rejoiced by all who bore witness, and all to whom you are prepared to transfer it, so that they may all benefit just as much as you have from the Sambuddha Sasana. Okay, let us take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired today by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, inviting the Swami Master to deliver the sermon as well as listening to it, contemplating the Dhamma, and creating a conducive environment for all to come along and practice the noble path. First and foremost, let us transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down to the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us also transfer these merits to the Mahanayaka Theras, Yananayaka Theras of all the chapters who have sacrificed their lives and committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddha Sasana. Let us also transfer these merits to the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine, as well as to my teacher, Guru Swami Mahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery and the anagarikas and anagarikas of the monastery. Let us also transfer these merits to each and every one of you who are devoted to the Sambuddha Sasana and to the monastery, friends of the monastery who have supported the monastery by offering the 4 requisites which have been of support to the Mahasangha to further and continue their practice, as well as those who provide their know-how and continue to extend their well-wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our teachers, our employers and our employees, as well as anyone and everyone who've helped us, supported us, assisted us in any way, shape or form. May they all rejoice in these merits. By the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadevas, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddha Sasana. Let us also transfer this message to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer this message to our forefathers, our ancestors, those who have passed away in our name, reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life as we do and practice the path peacefully. Let us also transfer this message to members of the armed forces as well as the police force and those who have committed themselves to protect our nation, develop our nation and preserve it. Let us remind ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life and practice the path in peace and harmony. Let us also transfer this message to those who lost their lives in the wars, be they friend or foe, with an abundance of compassion and loving kindness towards all of them. Let us transfer these merits, and by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may they be redeemed and be born in the blissful plane. Let us also transfer these merits to those who lost their lives in natural calamities and disasters, such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on. Reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been parents to us, siblings to us, friends of ours, and in some way, shape or form connected to our well-being. And therefore, with an abundance of compassion and loving kindness, let us transfer all these merits to all of them as well. By the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may they be redeemed and be born in the blissful plane. May, by the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we will to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land, and may you and I, and everyone who has helped make this program a success, become a Rahatan Mahanse or an Arahataran Mahanse in this very life itself and this era of the Sri Sambuddha Sasana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Rajagiriya Deshaginneng midetva Mohaginneng midetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan Sukhita tarvetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා මමද සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝ නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා රාගගිනි නිවේවා ද්වේෂගිනි නිවේවා මෝහගිනි නිවේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා නිවන් සැප ලැබේවා තුන්රුවන්ගේ සුවිසි අනන්ත මහා ගුණ බෙලෙන් සියලු ලෝක සියලු සත්වයෝම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සුඛිතතර වෙත්වා සාදු සාදු සාදු